So here we go. I'm going to give you a super short overview on designing a logo. So I have a client right now who owns a environmentally conscious kind of green movement auto body shop. So he fixes cars, but he uses energy that he harnesses using solar power and rainwater and things like that to actually power his facility. So he's very environmentally minded, but he fixes cars. So we kind of sat down, talked a little bit in person about his company, what he's trying to do. And so I sat down and just hammered out as many different concepts as I possibly could. Some are good, some are bad, some I kind of finished halfway and realized that wasn't really going anywhere. But the big thing is these are not illustrations. They are logos, right? So simple is better, right? Whenever you look like this guy here, it's a kind of a truck tire with some leaves and stuff growing out of it. Cool idea, but this doing the same thing is a much better concept. It still, even then, needs to be simplified, but simpler is better. You want it to be very, very legible, easily read, whether it's on a billboard or on a small lapel pin or on a stamp or a business card or whatever. It should be clean, it should be easy, and it should absolutely get the point of the company across. So in this case, the big things are, of course, the design elements of a car, the design elements of environmentalism, green movement, and all that. You'll see that not only did I just go for straight images, I also thought about just straight text or incorporating text and images together, just trying to see which different directions I could go. So I hammered out a whole bunch of different designs, and none of them necessarily with the intention on doing one or the other. So there was never the idea that like I would definitely do this one. These were just ideas, getting them out of my head onto a piece of paper. Sent them off to the client. The client liked a couple of them here and there, kind of revolved mostly around the leaf idea. I did some other ones here. I'll show you real quick. Let's see. He liked the idea of maybe like a Route 66 kind of sign or logo. So I did some quick little digital illustration, digital logos here. Didn't really focus on the color choices or cleanliness of the design, just again, getting the idea out. So these ones were done on the iPad using Procreate. Just quick, easy, copy, paste, just different directions to go. None of those necessarily stuck with the client, so we went back to the drawing board a little bit, and it seemed like this one here, the leaf car, seemed to gravitate the most to him. It's very similar to the logo that he has currently. So then I sat down, and again, very quickly, I'm just grabbing photos online, left and right, just anything to get my ideas flowing, right? You could do this digitally, you could do this in a sketchbook. It really doesn't matter. It's just hammering out ideas. And the one that kind of resonated with him the most was this kind of leaf right here. But he said that he really wanted this leaf to look a little more like a dragster, a little bit more of a speedy car. So I'm going to take some elements of this guy here with a little bit of this kind of puff, kind of cloud, these stripes right through him, more of a leaned in kind of body shape. So we're going to kind of see what we can do by merging these two. So I've just pulled a quick little screenshot in here. I'm going to make a new layer. This is Adobe Illustrator, of course. Anytime you're doing any kind of major logo or design elements here, you definitely want to be using Illustrator. Now, I'm a sucker for the pen tool. I'm going to go ahead and use that almost the entire time. But if you like more of the shape tools, there's nothing wrong with that either. So like for the tire here, for the wheels, I'll definitely use the shape tools over here. And I'll use the pen tool for the majority of the leaf. Because it's kind of got a little bit of a sway to it. And then we'll go back and we'll edit this, because that's the best part about Adobe Illustrator, is that you're not really locked into anything. You can edit and bend your shapes as much as you want. So right there already you can see I'm slightly off, kind of up in this region here, and I'm not all that worried about it. Again, I'll go through, edit and change and manipulate, and I'll feel pretty good about it. Now this original leaf wasn't 100% my design, so I definitely want to edit and change it in a way that makes it more my own. So we'll come back. I'm going to go ahead and turn that layer off, make a brand new layer. I really like working with layers as much as is possible. I know plenty of artists who work on the same layer or will, punch different elements inside, different paths inside of a particular single layer. I love working with layers. So I'm going to make as many as possible. That does not mean you have to. Doesn't mean that it's the right way to go. Just means that that's what I'm doing. Let's see, go ahead there. And I'm going to bring it on back. If for some reason, let's say, for example, I'm tracing something and I can't quite see, nothing says I have to finish that shape, right? I can always deselect, reselect, notch the opacity down. So now I can see plenty fine, right? I can even zoom in here a little bit. Come back to my shape right where I left off. Grab the old pen tool. You'll see that little asterisk along the pen switch to a little backslash. That's going to allow me to connect to my anchor point. And I'll bring it on down here. What do you think? Something like that, maybe? Looks pretty good. I'm hitting Alt-Option to adjust my my line here. Definitely go back and practice that pen tool as much as you possibly feel that you can without going crazy. The pen tool is your absolute best friend in Adobe Illustrator. So get used to it. Really just work on it as much as you possibly can. So again, you can see here, definitely a little bit too thick, a little bit too thin. I'm kind of going thick to thin to thick to thin. So I really want to get in and adjust that. I'm going to do it now. I don't really have to. I could do it at the end easily, but I know it will bother me if I don't. So I really want it to kind of remain the same level of thickness. Let's see. Kind of go as thick to thin across the entire leaf vein. So thick, thick, thin, thin, medium, and all the way out. Okay, that looks pretty good. Do little veins and so on and so forth. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do those veins later on my time. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and grab this, make a new layer. I can always reword my layer, or rename my layers as well. Double click on the name. These will be, the wheels. Or how about just wheel? We'll say leaf body. BG for background, and what do you think? Leaf. We'll do light green because maybe there's more than just the vein. Maybe we'll put some other little details in there, some shading or shadows. Let's see. Go ahead and grab the circle tool. Hit Shift and open her up, just like that. By holding Shift, I'm making a perfect, clean circle. Okay. Looks pretty good. Okay, now I've got that looking pretty good. Everything's nice and happy. Let's see. So now I want to make another circle on the inside. I'm going to cheat a little bit for the expediency of it. I'm going to copy. I'm going to paste in place. To do that, you can come to Edit, Paste in Place, or Shift, Command, and V. That'll work too. And even though it looks exactly the same, there's actually two circles right over top. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down. I'm going to hold Shift, but that's going to pull it toward the corner. If I hit Shift and Alt-Option at the same time, notice how it shrinks it perfectly centered, and that's really what I want right there. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I got two circles perfectly centered. I'm going to change their color just so that I can see what the heck I'm doing. Looks pretty nice. Take a peek here. I'm going to notch the opacity down on these guys so I can really tell what's happening. Again, Shift, Alt, Option, and scale it out, just like so. So I want to really cut this out, almost like a little donut. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this guy out. So I'm going to select both. I'm going to do my Pathfinder menu. If for some reason you don't have the Pathfinder, you can always go up to Window and Pathfinder. The second option in here, you'll notice that the top is hollowed out, the bottom is still solid, so I click that, and the top circle, in this case the kind of violet pink color, gets punched out, and now I've got this guy here, and he's looking pretty good, nice and solid. Okay, so there's my little kind of donut shape. We can just keep this on rolling on here. Hold down Shift, scale them out, just kind of guessing a little bit. I can always adjust it. Make sure it's centered, looking pretty good. Notch down the opacity. Same thing, I'm going to go ahead and copy, paste in place, shrink centrally, grab one, grab two. I'm holding shift to grab more than one, and punch out a nice little circle there. Now, for these little wheel hubs, I'm not going to lie, I don't really like these wheel hubs. It's just not my personal preference. It's not really the look I'm going for. So I'd probably go online, I'd find some other wheel type, maybe something a little bit more, a little bit sportier. These look a little too simple for my taste. So I'll find something a little bit different, but at least initially you can kind of tell where we're going with this. So I'm looking at other wheels now, trying to get inspired as far as thinking about the speed of the tire. And a couple of these really stand out to me, just like so. A couple of things really stand out as far as showing a sense of speed as I'm looking around online here. All the wheels that I'm looking at seem like they're in 3 dimensions. They're showing the front and the side of the wheel. So that could be a little bit of a challenge here because we're definitely doing a more 2-dimensional wheel-like object. But then even furthermore, you can tell that they're a little bit squashed. This one especially here. That one is very pinched in the middle. I think I can definitely use that to my advantage. I kind of like this maybe flame coming off of it. They all have like a bit of a screech kind of going, right? You kind of see all these little action lines, the tires peeling out and screeching as it goes along. And I like this kind of whoosh happening here in the actual wheel hub. So there's some cool ideas we can play with for sure. So let's see, what can we do? Well, I'm going to go ahead and grab these guys here. Just do Alt-Option so I can duplicate. Don't have to copy-paste, it's working just fine like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down. And let's see, put them down at ground level. So it looks something like that. Alright, now we're onto something here. Grab these 2 guys here. I'm going to group them together real quick just so they're on the same layer. I wonder how... Maybe turn him down, nose down. We can give it a little bit more of a expediency, a little bit more speedy kind of look to him overall. I think I can work with that. Okay, so I've got this positioned here over on the side just so I can kind of see it a little bit better. Definitely I think that downward slope kind of helps give it some speed. Kind of a nice cut there. I wonder if I could manipulate that a little further. Let's take a peek. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool. I wonder what it would look like if I pulled this in more. Maybe pull that back. Have it so it's kind of leaning into the curve a little bit more. Yeah, okay, alright. So you can see how quickly something can kind of get altered or manipulated, changed in order to make your design. Make it your own, right? Give it a little more of a pull on that. This bottom isn't really working with me. It kind of feels like a boat. Feels a little heavy. Let's see if we can flatten it out a little bit. Maybe put a little bit more push on the back end. I kind of want to know, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a roll. He's the one the artist or the client likes here kind of comes to a pinch. So maybe I'll work on that. Let's see. Yeah, I mean that's fast, but that doesn't really work for me. So long story short, you keep playing with it. That's the answer. There is not a perfect magical system here that's going to make this all work for you. There's not a guideline that you can follow. But as soon as you start finding something that you're happy with, then you're kind of in the right place. You are the artist here. Everything can be stronger, everything can be better, and everything can be simplified. So already, I haven't even added the details to the wheels, and I'm already not happy with them, because frankly, they're already too detailed. I want them simple, 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 and clean, right? So I'll play around with them a little bit. I'll see what comes out. I don't want to bore you guys with the entire process, but you can see how quickly you can jump into something that's a little more digital, and that digital nature gives you a lot more ease of use. Very quickly I can go from a shape of leaf this way to something a little bit more like this, and I can keep pushing it. I think maybe even the thickness of this vein here could be much, much bigger. I don't need it to be very wispy and thin, which if you had asked me 10 minutes ago, I would have said I needed to, and already I'm thinking that looks a little more powerful, a little more kind of tough. So play around until you're happy. Think about where you can place the text, right? So in my case, I'm definitely working out of more of a circular kind of nature to this element here, to this circle, to this logo. And so maybe I incorporate that circle somehow, get like a yin-yang thing going or something. There are lots of different directions, lots of different elements that can go into play here. So take your time, have a little bit of fun. If you have major questions, obviously talk to me. I'm happy to help you. As we go along, whether you are working on this or the actual poster, the elements are still the same. You come up with the design for your poster, you come up with the design for your logo. I like to work pen and paper, but you could work on the iPad or just directly into Photoshop. Once you have your concept, once you have your overall design, then you start digitizing it. A big thing that you want to take away, especially with the poster design, whenever it comes to anything that's more of an infographic or anything like that, think about designing on a grid or on a kind of a shape, right? So as I'm going along, let's say, for example, with the poster project, right? Let's say, for example, that this piece of paper here, my artboard, let's say this is my poster, right? Well, if I have some elements, let's just pretend here there's some, let's see, we'll say that's an image. Maybe I've got another image here, another image there, and just for the sake of argument, let's say that the dark green boxes here are text, right? So I want like a header, that's like the title, and then maybe there's a couple lines of text right there, and I don't know, a little website, right? So these are my elements, right? You want to think about designing on a grid, designing so that everything kind of aligns. The easiest way to do that is to do Command R. That pulls up your ruler. If you don't like your measurements here, I have mine in inches, but you can always do it in a different measurement style there. So for example, I don't really want my images to bleed off the page. I don't want them to get cut off whenever they get printed. So maybe I want them nice and aligned and very, very clean. So I'm going to come over here, click on this ruler, drag it out. And maybe I want, I don't know, 1/2 inch on this side, drag it out, and do 1/2 inch on that side. Just like so. That allows me to constrain this image, squeeze it here in the middle, and now I've got something that's even Steven on both sides, looking pretty good. But you know, this little bit of weight here at the top isn't really pleasing me. So I can click at the top ruler, drag down a horizontal bar, right? And then here I can do, again, kind of maybe the same little inch border there, line it up. Now I've got a clean, even border that's the exact same on the sides, on the top, on the left, right, looking good. Now I've got these other elements. Look how they're all off-center, right? So it doesn't really matter where you place them, at least not for right now. As we go along, we can find better placement. But think about aligning them as best that you can, right? So what happens, let's see, put my header at the top. That's why we call it a header. Put an image kind of underneath of it, kind of squeezing in. Maybe this guy, let's see, he gets it there. Now, these two dudes, even if they're slightly off-center, that little tiny bit, oh, it's going to drive you crazy. So grab a ruler, drag it down, plunk it. Look at this. Now I've got one, I've got two nice clean images. Let's pretend that this image is much, much bigger. Well, now I've got something that's off-center, right? This balance is kind of out of whack. So what's the easiest way? Well, let's rebalance it. Maybe this guy goes, I don't know, let's see, kind of down here. Actually, let's align them at the bottom too. Why not? Drag a ruler, toss it down, click, and it connects right there. This guy, maybe he gets centered up. That looks pretty good. And you just keep playing around with it. Now this is a pretty empty, vacant poster layout right now. I've got a lot of negative space. So I would work on finding other elements or maybe enlarging the elements that I already have to fill up that space. They can do symmetrical design, asymmetrical design. There's a lot of things you can work on as far as making your poster layout your own. As far as what images to do, as far as how to design your logo, all these different things come up to you individually as far as your imagination. That's the biggest thing, right? At the end of the day, I can teach you to design on a grid. I can teach you how to use the pen tool, but you're the person. You are the artist coming up with these designs. No one can teach you. No one on YouTube, no one in person. You have to just get out there and keep coming up with ideas. The best way to do that, just like we did way back at the very beginning here, is work on your thumbnails, right? Just like we did here a little bit ago. You saw all the thumbnails that I hammered out for this single design, and I'm still not done. I'm still coming up with new different elements that can make this logo the absolute best that it can be, right? Keep doodling, keep coming up with ideas. That's going to be your path to success. If you have any questions or any comments, anything that goes wrong, talk to me. Happy to help you. Bye.